welcome to the meeting. It's good to see people here. Quite a long meeting today. Just to mention to people that we have it in two parts. We're going to have the morning session where we're dealing with the first two substantial items, and then we're having a break of probably half an hour, starting at 1 o'clock for the final item on the agenda, which is the Gypsy and Traveller Assessment. That's the format this morning. So just first of all, apologies for absence. We've had apologies from Hugh Williams, and we've not had any more apologies. Has anyone got any other apologies, or are we all here?
Yes, Chair, can I just pass over this? Cheryl Williams has just contacted me to say she's on her way.
Okay, yeah. So declarations of interest, the usual thing. If you have a personal or a prejudicial interest, then shout up as you get to that stage, unless anyone wants to declare an interest now. I think there are 3 members of the committee who are also on the working group for item 9, and that's a personal interest and not a prejudicial interest, I think.
So I need to declare that, please.
Sorry, Chair, it's not an interest because effectively members of the Task and Finish group were tasked by scrutiny to undertake this work, so there's no conflict of interest or an interest that requires to be declared.
Okay, thanks. So that's solved that the 3 members that are on that. So any other declarations of interest at this stage? Okay, moving on to the minutes. The minutes are on page 7. First of all, we'll just have a look through. My apologies, we've got urgent items. There are no urgent items that have been passed to the chair, to our knowledge, and so we move on to number 4, which is the minutes of the last meeting on page 7. So first of all, just checking them for accuracy. Does anyone have any points they want to raise? Should we take the whole? I mean, if you've got one, shout out and we'll go to that page. Okay, would someone like to propose that they're a correct record?
I propose, Chair. Peter.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'll second, Chair.
And Councillor Mervyn Parry to second.
Yes, Chair, can I just come in there? You've got me down as I was absent on that day, but I'm almost positive that I did declare that I wouldn't be attending that meeting.
Okay, we can check back and have a look at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so all those in favour? Okay, so now on to matters that have arisen from the minutes. RHAN, do you want to take us through?
Yeah, just a couple of things really on those minutes. They have been circulated in the information brief document, which I circulated to all members on Monday. A query was raised with regards to the Wildflower Meadows project and when a report would be available, because it's currently down in the work programme. I think it's for September 2022. Now, I've had an update from officers on this. The work has started on the approach to injurious weeds, but it isn't at a stage where officers can draft a report as yet. Discussions have also taken place with the AONB, and as they sit within the same service, they don't foresee a problem there with them working together. And the biodiversity officer is due to meet North and Mid Wales Trunk Road Agency shortly. So, but at the moment, there's nothing more than that they can report back to you. The other one was the report on Ysgol RHYL, which has been on the forward work programme as a future item for information. I've now had confirmation from Education Service officers that they are currently working on this and are aiming to have the report available by early February 2022.
Okay, any other points that people want to raise from the minutes?
RHAN, can I just come back on that one?
Yeah, off you go, Mervyn.
Yeah, just quickly, RHAN, were they going to give us a report as we expected on the community impact of the closure of the school, or what is the report they're going to send us back?
Yes, that's what I've asked them for, is the community impact assessment of the closure of the school on the community.
Okay, Diolch, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other points that members want to raise? Okay, so let's move on to item number 5, which is about the new apologies, just get to the right place. The flood schemes that in RHYL and PRESTATYN, and Councillor Brian Jones, I think, is going to introduce it. Welcome to Tony Ward, Wayne Hope, Helen Johnson too. So over to you, Brian.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've put my camera on, but usually everything will break up. So if you can stop me as I speak, and we'll switch the camera off. So this report, we've been requested by scrutiny to attend here this morning to give an overview of the engagement on the Central RHYL and the Central PRESTATYN coastal defence schemes. A lot of information in the pack. I just want to say a quick thank you to the report author, Matthew Hazelwood. Coupled with his name is Helen Johnson and also Wayne Hope. But Matthew Hazelwood has chaired all the East RHYL flood defence scheme meetings that we hold on a regular basis, and I think we've had about 30 odd of those meetings. And if I could just say very briefly, Chair, without taking too much time, he's done a sterling job there, absolutely top notch. He's moved to other projects within the council, but I just wanted to put it on record for his efforts coordinating and keeping everything on track. So obviously he had an input on this report this morning as the author, but he's been ably succeeded by a lady called Helen Johnson, who's moved into Ddinbych, and I'm sure she'll do an equally sterling job. So the report then, as I've said, there's a lot of information in facts there about the engagement. It's pretty thorough, but it's there for discussion this morning. On the Central PRESTATYN coastal defence scheme, it is referred to, but there's not an exact date because it wasn't available before the report was due. There is a drop-in session for the PRESTATYN coastal defence scheme next Monday. That's been circulated around the Denbighshire media and beyond. So that's a bit of an add-on from the report. You've also already mentioned, Chair, we've got Wayne Hope with us and Tony Ward, and I believe Tim Towers is here. So I will immediately hand over to Tony Ward to add any detail onto my introduction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brian. BUDD-DDEILIAID. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, as Brian said, we alluded to there, we came to the committee about a year ago now to discuss these two potential flood schemes. Members were rightly concerned about the...
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. Could you switch your camera off?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Sorry. I assume that's because you can't hear me and not just because you don't want to look at my face. Chair, I'll switch it off now. Although if it was the latter, then that's fine too. Okay, sorry, I'll start again. We came to the committee about a year ago to discuss these two potential flood schemes, and members were rightly concerned with the associated engagement activities in relation to them. So we were asked to come back to report on those engagement exercises, and that's what we're here to do today. So there are details within Appendix 1 and 2, which both summarise the engagement activities we've undertaken and the outcome of those, but actually also provides some more information just to update members on those schemes in terms of location, what we propose to do, what we think they might look like. And then in addition to that, we've also included the wellbeing impact assessments for both schemes as well, just so that members are up to date with the progress of the schemes, but also the benefits that we hope that they will deliver. But this this report isn't really fundamentally about that. It's about the engagement activity, and that's what we were asked to come back to report on. So I think probably the best thing to do, Chair, is to open it up to members, and myself and Wayne in particular will attempt to answer any questions that you've got.
Okay, thank you very much. So the report in front of us is about the engagement and not the actual project itself. One point that we did raise yesterday in our pre-meeting was in terms of Prestatyn Town Council, because it mentions RHYL Town Council, but Prestatyn Council's not mentioned. And we thought the reason for that was that there was a technical problem on the meeting. Is that the case? Do you want to say that, Brian?
That's correct, Graham. There was a problem at the last Prestatyn meeting with the connectivity.
So that's been rearranged, I think, hasn't it, for the next few days or a couple of weeks?
That is correct. I haven't actually got the date on the fingertips, but I believe it has been rearranged. Correct, Chair.
Okay, well, so over to members. Obviously, a very satisfied group of members there.
Chair, can I just come in for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, regarding the Prestatyn mags, it's I'm not sure when it is, but it doesn't appear to be in my diary or calendar as yet. So I'm hoping or thinking it should arrive there soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be looked into. So comments from members. Brian Blakely, Councillor Brian Blakely.
Let me unmute, yeah. Not a great deal to say, Chair. Very, very happy with the scheme. One or two upsets to start with about the threat of the loss of maybe the RHYL Golf Club. I think that's it's hopefully it's being settled now. Really, just to thank everybody for the work it's been done and how quickly that the scheme has gone ahead. I have not had a lot of complaints up my side, on my ward, and I don't think Brian Jones has either. I'd really come on just to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to the officers and to the contractors for the speed in which they've done the job, and to make, especially to make the RHYL side and the coastal area of RHYL safe. I do appreciate that, and I'm sure the residents of RHYL appreciated that, because a few years ago, and I'm saying a few years ago, under environment and scrutiny, I remember the NRW, along with the water, coming along to us and telling us that there was nothing they could do at that time, that we were going to end up where the way the tides were going, with the whole of the coastal area around to Mostyn could be underwater by 2050. So I think with this scheme, it's gone a long way to maybe to stop that happening. I hope so. And again, it was just to say thank you to everybody within the council and also the contractors for doing the work that they have done. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Brian, for that contribution. Over to Councillor Glenn Swingler.
Thank you very much. Just a quick one. In the appendix, it says, although the entire frontage will eventually need improvements, the Central Prestatyn Coastal Defence Scheme focused on the area of most immediate concern adjacent to RHYL Golf Club. So the additional frontage, what worries do we have leading up to being able to do any work that will cause concern?
Okay, thanks. Who's going to take that?
That'll be for Wayne Hope, I would have thought, Chair. Mr. Hope.
Okay, over to you. Welcome, Wayne.
Thank you, Chair. Glenn, thanks for that question. So Yes, we looked at the, I mean, the reason it's called the Central Prestatyn Coastal Defence Scheme is because when we started to look at the defences and to try to assess what needed doing, that we weren't necessarily expecting that the scheme would take place in front of RHYL golf course. But that's the most pressing risk. The rest of the defences we think will, in terms of overtopping risk, providing we carry on maintaining them, as we have been over the last, well, since the council was formed. If we carry on that maintenance work, then they've got probably 40 or 50 years of life left in them. Probably the greatest concern would be around the dune system at Gronant, and we carry out regular inspections and monitoring. And I'm looking at future projects that might involve importing large quantities of sand, which we did in the very early days of Denbighshire County Council in conjunction with Flintshire Council and Natural Resources Wales. So but we're dealing with the most pressing risk and thereby protecting lots of properties, but we won't just ignore the rest of the defences, and we'll invest accordingly in future, but there's no pressing need at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that okay, Glenn? Yeah. Okay, over to Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Put my camera off. Just a quick question, Chair. I noticed, I'm sure it's been dealt with, but with the booths, or what do they call them on the front of RHYL? They've got a name for the hang on, the kiosk lease. I noticed that they're having to go. Is there a plan to relocate these again? I'm sure it must be there. It's been discussed, but I seem to have missed it somewhere. Thank you.
Tony Ward will come back on that one, Chair.
This is part of the discussions that are ongoing at the moment in relation to the RHYL scheme. Our corporate property team are engaging with the current tenants of the kiosks, and we're working with the property team to see what they would like to see in future in relation to that provision. So it's not something which is completely bottomed out or agreed yet. It's an ongoing discussion that we have. But Wayne, I don't know if you want to say any more about it, or if that's basically the accurate summary of where we are.
Tony, I can't really add to that. I think, yeah, discussions are ongoing between our property team and the kiosk leasees. So there are 5 kiosks, 4 of them are owned and leased by the council. Yeah, so nothing is finalised yet. But the only thing I can say categorically is that the scheme can't be built with those kiosks in place. That they're right in the way of all the construction activities, unfortunately.
Can I just come back, Chair?
Yes.
I'm just asking, are we being proactive with the kiosk owners or with the front to make sure that maybe such a facility is back on the front of RHYL in some form or another? Because if people are coming and walking along the front of RHYL, they might want to stop and, I don't know what they sell now, candy floss, toffee apples, have a cup of tea, whatever they used to do. It was part of the seaside front scene, really. So are we going to be working with this type of thing going forward once the scheme is done? That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the other thing that we've got to bear in mind is that there are other projects potentially proposed for the same area of RHYL around the promenade and the seafront. You know, Mike Jones in Emlyn Service has been working on a potential project for some time around the promenade area and the highways aspects. So we're working with Mike and Emlyn to try and work out how to dovetail these 2 potential schemes, neither of which are approved yet. So, you know, neither of which are guaranteed to happen. But if they do both go ahead, to agree what that promenade offer will look like at the end of this. So it's an ongoing discussion, Mervyn. There's no firm conclusion on it yet, but it is,
okay,
we are proactively discussing it, yes.
I'm just concerned that there's obviously people's livelihood at stake that have been involved in some of these booths for years or generations possibly. And if we're just stopping them, have we discussed that ongoing impact with those people who run those businesses? Thank you.
Yes, that's happening through the property team, Mervyn.
Okay, thanks. So,
again, if I can come in, Chair, yeah, if I can come in, it is a matter that I picked up on very early on, if you like, and had those conversations. And as Wayne and Tony have just chipped in, that there is the proper conversations going on with the kiosk holders through the proper route. I believe they've got an agent who's certainly one of them that's representing them. So it is all being looked at. But you're right to raise it, Mervyn, that and I took the same stance with the Queen's Market when there was lots of stall holders there when before Denbighshire did the compulsory purchase of that. So yeah, I'm keeping on top of that and watching that, and it has been discussed, as Tony's mentioned, and that bigger scheme of reconnecting the high street to the beach. I haven't got the details of what that means and what the details of the design are, but that will all become apparent as we move. And then just to finish off on a lighter note, Mervyn, not only do they sell candy floss and toffee apples, they also sell Kiss Me Quick hats. If you want me to get you one, I'll get you one in time for Easter.
Thank you.
Tony, do you want to come in on this again?
Yeah, I just wanted to, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to highlight that although this is a report to update on the engagement activities that have taken place, the engagement hasn't finished yet, and it will be an ongoing process, you know, both through the final planning of these potential schemes, but also through the construction of them if they take place. And you know, that will involve all those key stakeholders. And for example, Denbighshire Leisure Limited are a key stakeholder, and we have had, you know, several meetings with DLL to discuss the potential impact of the RHYL scheme in particular. But those discussions are ongoing as well. The discussions are going well, but you know, we're looking at whether anything needs to be tweaked in terms of the design or the scheduling of the scheme, for example, so we minimise any impact on DLL as a result of the project. The same is also true with the RHYL Golf Club. You know, we need to work with them in order to deliver the PRESTATYN scheme, and we have been doing that for some time now. And you know, those discussions are going well, and you know, we're working together in order to see how we can make that scheme happen in a way that minimises the impact to the club. So all of this stuff is still ongoing, is what I'm saying. We're not reporting that all this is finished. It's still work in progress, and it will continue.
Okay, thank you for those reassurances. Councillor Glenn Swingler.
Yeah, I know we're talking about the engagement here, but just to give us some idea about the scheduling and the time length that these works would take, and how long would be on in both areas. You know, both for the businesses, obviously with the, you know, the summer season and everything like that, but you know, has a big impact. So I just wondered how long these works would take roughly.
Thanks. Just a brief comment on that. I think probably a lot of the time scales.
Wayne will be best placed to answer that. I could give an answer, but I'll leave it to the expert.
Thanks, Brian. Glenn, in relation to Central RHYL, we're probably looking at around about 2 to 2.5 years for the section from it's essentially split into two discrete sections. The Central RHYL scheme, there's a section from the eastern end of the West RHYL scheme that's already completed, so that's by the Drift Park, and as far as the Seaquarium. So that's probably the busiest bit, you know, in front of the Children's Village, and we think between 2.5 years for that. There's a relatively more straightforward section from the RNLI building heading east towards Splash Point. We think that that would take about 18 months. In relation to the Prestatyn scheme, we're very much dictated by the existing ground conditions, and it has to be done in it's a very simple project in that it's an earthwork bund with a sheet piled core, steel sheet pile core, but it has to be done quite slowly so that the whole thing doesn't collapse into the existing soft ground. And we think that that might take 2.5 to 3 years, but we'll have to monitor as we go along, and that will dictate the schedule.
Right. And if I can chip in, Chair, obviously there's been a consideration to disruption, because there will be disruption, but the consideration that's already been discussed, Wayne just mentioned the sea aquarium there. I've been there to a meeting myself with Wayne. Wayne's been there 2 or 3 times. That's an important facility there on the prom that drags in a lot of visitors a year. You'd be surprised about the numbers. And so we've been engaging with them. Ddinbych Leisure's already been mentioned, because that needs to be another big consideration. And I know we're straying off the agenda here slightly. I've had discussions with the highway team about, can we have shuttle glorified park and rides, because if they're reconnecting the high street to the beach, might happen at the same time. There's another disruption factor. So I'm as the lead member, I'm happy that the officers are picking up these points about the construction, what it'll mean, what's the best way to go about the construction phase that minimises, you know, in the case of Ddinbych Leisure, it minimises the disruption to, you know, the main part of their summer season, for instance. But none of that's on 10 foot of concrete at the moment, pardon the pun, sea defences, concrete. So, but it's been discussed, and it's in the headlights, and the Wayne hopes of this world will carry on with the conversations to make sure that disruption is minimised. But there will be disruption without doubt. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We shan't go on to the concrete, otherwise we'll be discussing climate change issues with the concrete as well.
Actually, if I can chip in there, Chair, and we're totally going off the subject here, but I need to jump in there. There is in the wellbeing assessment pack for Central RHYL, there is a section there about the carbon emissions and what they're doing to mitigate them, keep them to the lowest levels possible. So I was really pleased about that when I saw that in that pack, Chair, and I'm sure you'll be.
Yeah, thanks. No more members indicating that they want to speak. I think it seems like we've been really reassured that consultation has been really effective. So thank you to Brian and Wayne and Tony and the teams that are involved in that. So we come to the recommendations. Recommendations at the top of page 14. The first one is that the committee examines the scope of and findings of the stakeholder and public consultation for the schemes, comments accordingly, which we have done, and recommends to Cabinet on the 18th of January 2022 that it's satisfied with the consultation approach and findings. And 3.2, that the committee confirms that as part of its consultation, it has read, understood and taken account of the wellbeing impact assessment attached at appendices 3A and 3B. Would someone like to propose that, please?
I'll propose that, Chair.
I'll second, Chair.
Councillor Blakely, and second by Councillor Parry, Owen Parry. Okay, so those in favour? Okay, that looks unanimous to me. Okay, thank you very much. So thanks to everybody that's been involved in that, and we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. And the next item on the agenda is let me just get to the page. It's the new waste and recycling operations model, and it's a general update and communications progress. So again, it's Councillor Brian Jones, who seems to be running just about every item on every committee I've been on.
Yeah, Thanks for that, Chair. But I must say, loving every minute of it. It's challenging and a lot of details, etc., but it's great, obviously, to be involved. We're joined on this report by Tara Dumas, who's the Waste and Recycling Service Manager. She's on there somewhere. I can't see her, but I'm reliably informed that she's there. And again, with this report, we have invited ourselves back on at least two occasions I can think of in the past, because we were really keen to keep this committee updated on what's happening with this new waste model, and a waste model which first came on the table back in December 2018, and it came on the table because of financial pressures that the authority were facing at the time, and the shift in gate fees for blue bin recycling materials, etc. But over that period, Chair, and I just finished off on the last report mentioning climate change, what has happened with this new waste model is, again, climate change has directed it for me. The fact now that we've got an opportunity with this new waste model to get better quality recycling, it's got to be something that we should all be getting behind, and I believe we all are behind it, because it's good for the planet, it's good for Ddinbych, and it's good for a lot of other things as well. None more so that this project, not only is it going to be a new waste model, the new depot that's currently under construction at Colomendy, close to Ddinbych, will also be a site where a consortium of businesses have joined in with us, and they will be able to expand, create more employment, and that's a massive bonus and a massive big plus for this new waste model, that it is going to be bringing more employment, not just at Ddinbych, because actually we've got a job fair tomorrow at Ddinbych Town Hall looking for recruitment people for the new waste model. So already that wheel's turning, and that's good news as well. So waffled on a little bit there, Chair, but if I can hand over then in the first instance to Tony Ward, and as I've already mentioned, Tara Dumas is here to answer questions, and I hope you're going to give it a really good challenge here this morning. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Tony?
Okay, yes, thank you, Brian, and again, thank you, everybody. I will keep my camera off, as you were having trouble before. So the reason for this paper is essentially to keep the committee up to date with progress on the new waste model project. As you can see from the report and particularly the appendices, a lot of work has taken place over the last year or so, and a lot of progress has been made. And I appreciate that there's a lot of information here for the committee to go through. As Brian said, one of the key aspects of this project so far has been the development of the new depot in Ddinbych, or the progress we're making with the development of the new depot. And it was when we went to have a site visit the other week that I fully appreciated the scale of this project, and actually the scale of the associated benefits that this project's delivering in terms of economic development, and the enabling those existing businesses on the Colomendy estate to remain in Ddinbych, but also to expand. So I just thought it was worth highlighting that as well. Actually, that's been really pleasing to see, that we've managed to unlock that piece of land for the benefit of existing Ddinbych businesses. But obviously this isn't really about that. This is about the waste model. And so what we've got here in terms of certainly the appendices that we've put together here, well, I say we, I have to say Tara has done this rather than myself. But just to run through what we've got, Appendix 1 is really in diagrammatic form what the new service will look like, just as a reminder to members of what the model is that we're moving to. Appendix 2 It's quite hefty, and it's basically a suite of policies that we propose to adopt in relation to Ddinbysh's waste model going forward to support the service. Appendix 3 just gives you an idea of the timescales for the particular milestones in relation to the project, from where we are now to implementation and beyond. Appendix 4 goes back to what I said before about the development of the depot. It'll show you some of the progress that's being made there. Appendix 5 is really important. Again, it's the benefits realization plan for the project, so which highlights all of the benefits that we expect to be delivered through this project and provides an update on where we are with them. Appendix 6, again, going back to the previous item on the agenda, is really crucial because it's about the communication and engagement plan. You know, this has been a long project in the making, but we're probably around about 18 months away from the launch of this, so we will need to ramp up our engagement and communication about it, certainly in that last 12 months before the model is rolled out. Appendix 7 is an element of that, because it's a frequently asked questions document which we've put together, which we plan to put on the website. As you can expect, throughout all of the discussions we've had, a lot of the questions we get are the same, so we've put those together to enable people to find the answers to those. And then finally, Appendix 8, we've got a financial update on the project, because that's quite a complicated picture. We're obviously we've accessed quite a significant amount of Welsh Government grants for this project. The council is also having to prudentially borrow to deliver it, but we still expect to deliver a financial benefit to the council as a result of the project at the end, and that's important because that's the commitment we made to Cabinet when the project was approved. So, as I said, a lot of information there, the Chair, and Tara is here to help me answer any of the questions that members might have today. So I'll probably just hand over back to you, Chair, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one point that perhaps you could help us with, and that is in terms of the new policy, which is appendix something or other.
Appendix 2, Chair.
Okay, thank you. That's a new policy and has changes from the old policy. I wonder if you could highlight the bits that are changing for us.
Okay, probably best if I ask Tara to come in at that point as Tara put together the document.
Okay, well, we'll come to that later if you like. Just to bear it in mind, because we're being asked to endorse the suite of household waste recycling policies, and we just want to be careful that we're not endorsing something that we haven't realised is a substantive change to the progress. That's all.
Just to say, I think there is a table which highlights the changes, which is, I think, Appendix 2B. Tara, is that correct?
Correct, yeah. At the bottom of the appendices, there's a table that highlights where there's a change from what we do now and where there will be a change when we introduce a new model in 18 months' time. So we, a lot of the policies that you see in Appendix 2A is what we actually work to now. Some of them are, it's just our working procedures and practices, some of which have never been actually formalised into a policy before, but it's what we've always done. So I have produced that table in Appendix 2B to highlight where the differences are for everybody to make it a lot simpler.
So that's pages 84 to 89 of the pack, Chair. Just
that was my next question. Thank you, Tony. Page 84 to 89. Okay, yeah, thanks. Thank you. Everyone happy with that? Thank you very much. I mean,
Chair?
the vast amount of work that's gone into this, because it really is, you know, a tremendous amount of hard work. And I think also as members, we appreciate that we're being told the process that's gone through and the fine details as well. And it is a balance sometimes between how much information we get and how much we can actually take in. So it's a big item. Anton, Councillor Anton Sampson wanted to.
Oh, thank you, Chair. And I think it'd be remiss of me as a councillor who was always told to speak on behalf of the residents. It's not very popular with people. People don't like change, and I wouldn't wish to stand in the way of progress, and appreciate it's an executive function decision-wise, but I just feel as though such a large change such as this should have gone to full council, I feel. I would have liked to have heard an opposing point of view, i.e., you know, keeping the current system that we have. And I'd like to make comparisons with other authorities, see how they've coped with it. Because people were looking up to us several years ago and copying the way we did things. And I haven't heard the counter argument on this. And, you know, I am speaking up for residents here, and they're not that happy about it. As I said, I'm not going to stand in the way of progress, but I just don't like the way it's happened, to be honest. Thank you, Chair.
If I could come in there, Chair.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, obviously, as the lead member, when this proposal for a new waste model was put to me, my first reaction was, and I've got a problem repeating the words, it was sort of over my dead body, because, and I think we all accept today, the blue bin has served Denbighshire very, very well. And at a point back in time, the blue bin had us up at the top of the pop charts in recycling. But when it was first brought to me as the lead member, I realised pretty quickly, first of all, and I mentioned it in my opening spiel, the financial aspects of running the blue bin and the black bin service as it is today were becoming unviable then, back in 2018. And the reason for that, from a financial perspective, was because when we couldn't start shipping away the material out the blue bin to here, there and everywhere, and when we stopped receiving what at the time was roughly £28 a tonne, the financial pressures started to come home to roost. At the same time as the Welsh Government were cutting the revenue support grant that supports the recycling systems throughout Wales, the Denbighshire was coming under considerable financial pressure. But even so, I did make the statement at the time, well, we'll find the monies from somewhere else and we will continue with the blue bin. But then when I thought about it more and looked into it more, and the flickers of recycling and climate change started to come on the agendas, I realised that better quality recycling had to be the way to go, because it's good for the planet. And I also realised that because this waste model at the end of the day is a Welsh Government blueprint, we had to look at it seriously to see if we could take it on board, because our neighbours in Conway did it over 2 years ago, and Conway now, at the time, it was on the centre pages of the Daily Mail, I believe, that Conway was going to be invested with vermin. You know, the boxes would be blown everywhere, rubbish would be everywhere, and that just hasn't come to pass in the real world. Yeah, there's been issues with trolley boxes that blow over in a gale force wind, but equally, you know, the blue bin will blow over in a gale force wind. So I accept that that some residents are not happy perhaps, but what I've found in my experience, if you sit and have a sensible conversations with residents, why you're doing it, the fact that the blue bin won't give you a better recycling rate than what you've got now, 60% odd, there's nothing more you can do with that to ultimately meet what the Welsh Government targets are to get the recycling rates up way above the 60% odd that the blue bin gives us at the moment. So as I've already said, the blue bin has been a good servant to Ddinbych. There is no mechanism that we can improve that recycling out the blue bin, because if we said something like, well, you know, let's sort the blue bin material out ourselves and get better quality recycling that way, the financials of it all will never stack up, and we won't get any support from Welsh Government because it's not their blueprint. So we, at the end of the day, my personal view on it, I wasn't forced into this by sort of Welsh Government. I looked at it with a clean pair of eyes, and when you do that, and you've already said, Councillor Sampson, that nobody likes change in whatever walk of life it is, to me, it is the right thing to do, because we will get better quality recycling. We can only work with the blueprint templates we're given by Welsh Government, and to get their support on funding electric vehicles, fund a lot of this new waste model on block. It was, in my view, but I'll take comments to the contrary, my view is the right thing to do, coupled with what we've already said about the Colomendi in particular, the business development, the economic development there with the other businesses on the site. It is the way to go, and I'm pretty confident in 3 or 4 years' time we'll look back like they're doing in Conway at the moment. The financials of their new waste model, which isn't new anymore, it stacks up. I haven't got the exact figures to quote you this morning, but because they've got better quality recycling, there's a surplus on the service, on the running of the service per annum. So yeah, I've had my little overtime shot on that, and I can see there's a few hands being generated. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Brian. I appreciate that.
I'm just going to go to Tony. Tony, do you want to add something on that same?
Yeah, I mean, I was thanks, Chair. I was just going to say that obviously the reasons for making this change were debated at length in various forums before the decision was made, including scrutiny and cabinet. And I think the benefits are clear. I mean, we've got them. We've highlighted them all in Appendix 5, which is the benefits realisation plan. The bottom line is the current model, which did work very well for us for a number of years, is not financially or environmentally sustainable. And the benefits of this change are very clear in Appendix 5. Financial benefits, the environmental benefits through increased recycling, improved quality of recycling, reduced carbon, as well as all the other associated benefits in that document. It's just really clear why we're doing this and the reasons why we need to do it. The only authorities who are getting anywhere near the 70%, the new 70% statutory target, are those who are working with this model, and we will never get anywhere near that with the system we've got currently, and that's why we're doing it. And but I think this has been debated, you know, at length in various forums before that decision was made.
Okay, thank you. Anton, do you want to come back on that?
No, I've thanked Brian for the information, and Tony. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Going to go through in twos now, otherwise we will be here till 1 o'clock this afternoon. Try and get some sort of a break between the two halves. So Peter Scott, Councillor Peter Scott, and then Councillor Mervyn Parry.
Thank you, Chair, but I think Anton got in front of me like I got in front of him yesterday. But my thing I was going to say, we all know that people get anxious about change, and I was just going to ask, have we any evidence to prove that this new system will be easier to use for residents, and do we have any statistics to prove we will recycle more? But I think Brian and Tony between them have answered the questions, Chair. But I think because Anton was first, I've missed out on my questions. But thank you very much.
Yeah. If I could jump in there, Chair, please. One other big thing for me that we've got with this new waste model, because we're not the first, and because I've already mentioned Conway, we're going to get a lot of learning, are getting a lot of learning from them and the teething problems that they had. And because we've got an excellent person, without patronising and embarrassing her, Tara Dumas, you know, we're not just going to stick trolley boxes out there. There's a whole host of bespoke options to make the whole model work. And I truly believe that through Tara and her team, they've thought about it, they're still thinking about it, and we will have a mainstream trolley box system with bespoke elements bolted onto it, which will cater for all the little gremlins and the rural areas and places like West RHYL, where we will have the best chance to maximise the benefits of this new waste model. So I've got no doubt, no qualms about that. Thank you for letting me interrupt, Chair.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian, for that. That's excellent news. Thank you.
Okay, so going to Mervyn and then to Glenn.
Thank you, Chair. Again, I'll put my camera off. Just a quick one. Maybe Tara could just answer a quick question on the textiles collection when it comes. Are we likely to get that county-wide and not just on the coast? I'm very pleased that this paper's come out. Can I thank everybody for the work that's been put in on this? The Appendix 7 on this is very useful for anybody if they wanted to print it off, because there's a good question and answer there. It answers the easy questions, so it gives a good explanation, and there's some visuals on the changes that you will see. The rollout of the bins from the black and the blue and the orange bins has been excellent for Denbighshire, but we've got to move forward. We've got to increase our recycling. We've all got a responsibility to deliver this, and by moving into the new bin system is the way forward for us. I mean, Brian's gone on about the blue bin. Unfortunately, I think probably the black bin is our biggest bugbear, because more recyclable stuff goes into the black bin than should do. So that's where that's costing us a lot of money. Brian and Tony might put me right on that one, but I think that the black bin is the big cost for us. And you know, we're teaching children to recycle in school. They want to do it. We should be responsible for it as well. It's not much of an effort to make to separate your rubbish to go into recycling. So thanks for this. I think it's an excellent bit of work that's been done, and look forward to seeing it being rolled out into Denbighshire.
Thanks, Mervyn. We'll go straight to Glenn.
Yeah, thank you. I absolutely support anything that gets more recycling, as has been explained by Mervyn there. Yeah, I'm pleased about this. Just a few questions. Firstly, I'm pleased to see that we're getting this sack for the cardboard. Is that a new thing? I don't recall seeing that previously, so that must be quite new. Tara, thank you for meeting me up at Blondercrest to look at the community bin system. I think we're still going to have some concerns there over keeping those areas clean, and who's responsible. Different community areas will have different people responsible for cleaning those areas, whether it's housing, whether it's street scene or anybody else. Yeah, so I think we need to keep an eye on that. Could you just go into some details about that? Extra bins for recycling. If you are recycling extremely well and you are using up more than your space, will you be given extra recycling bins for free, and will they be collected? And I noticed there's some delays around electric vehicles. In-cab tech, I'm not sure if you could explain what the in-cab tech is and why that's what's delaying there. And also on staffing issues, how are we getting along with that, and how are the workforce dealing with it, all these changes that are coming? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go for some answers. So I don't know who wants to start
Well,
on.
I think Tara will want to come in for a lot of that, Chair. Just to briefly touch on a couple of things before I hand over. Yeah, I think that, going back to what Peter said and Anton before about, not all the residents are on board with it. Maybe it's not that popular. That's why the engagement plan is really important, because we need to get those messages home about why this is essential and get people on board. So we're aware of the issues. The staffing wise, we've been meeting with the staff quite regularly. Me and Tara went to visit the staff again in groups north and south quite recently. The good thing about this is there will be opportunities for our existing staff to take additional training and to progress into different roles, because we need more staff overall for this new model. So there'll be more staff. There'll be more people at all different levels, so people have got an opportunity to progress, as well as actually an opportunity for us to employ more people, which is another positive benefit from the project. But Tara will have a lot to say on a lot of those questions. I'll just hand over to you, Tara, I think.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks very much. Yeah, just to go back to Mervyn's point about the textiles. Yeah, currently the co-options operate a sort of informal almost textile collection, mainly in the north of the county. And the plan for the textiles is to make sure that that is rolled out across the entire county. There will be some rural areas that they won't go to, but we ourselves as a council, our own collection trucks will collect textiles from any property that co-options can't do, because obviously they've got to do things that are financially viable to them, and we want to keep the mileage down that we travel and not travel a long way just to pick up what may or may not be a bag put out. So yeah, textiles will be offered to every single household as a result of this service. We pre-COVID, we just secured some funding from Welsh Government to actually extend the textiles ahead of the new model to more towns in the south of the county. That's been delayed because of all of the COVID issues and what's happened to the textile markets. But as that recovers now, we can start looking at doing that. So it's on my to-do list. So on to go into questions. Additional containers. So as part of the rollout, the standard service to over 44,000 households will be the trolley box service, and they will get a free trolley box. They will get their addition, their larger black bin as part of that service. If they need additional recycling containers, they'll have an option. So we will be issuing a cardboard sack, and you're right, Glenn, it might not have been part of the very original plans to do that. But we've had quite a bit of feedback about the trolley box, the difficulty in putting sort of the brown card in that bottom box and the practicalities of it. And we feel that a cardboard sack for card is much better. That's why we're offering a lot more capacity now on the scheme for recycling than we were sort of 3 years ago. So we will be issuing a cardboard sack with a trolley box. It will have a tie on it, so it can be tied to the trolley box or to a railing to reduce its likelihood of being sort of blown away in the wind, because we do see that happen sometimes in other counties on days like we had the other week with Storm Arwen. But people obviously can still use that system, and if they need additional capacity, they can either purchase a second trolley box, or they can just have extra sacks. The good thing about the system that we've got with the trolley box is we're not going to dictate what goes in that sack. If somebody hasn't got very much card, they're welcome to fill it with cans and plastic instead, and we'll be making that clear on the scheme. What we can't have is people mixing it like they do in the blue bin and putting lots of different recycling in. But if we can get that message across and really hammer that home, that you can have additional bags and you can put whatever you want in it for recycling, as long as you don't mix the different streams that we need to keep separate. So it will be quite a flexible scheme. I think that's quite important going forward as well. One of the advantages of this model is that the world is changing very quickly. Technology is changing very quickly, and the demands on the environment obviously are greater than ever. So there will be a call, I assume, from central governments across the world to introduce more schemes for recycling, so we can recycle things we can't collect at the moment. And the good thing about a source segregated service like this is that you can adapt that service to meet those requirements. So if the markets are there for plastic film, and we believe that we should be collecting plastic film, we'd be able to do it on a source segregated service, but we can't do it in a commingled bin because you can't put the film in with all the other materials because it all gets trapped up. So it does give us that flexibility going forward. So I hope that answers most of the questions. Glenn, I don't know if there's anything I've missed there.
I've still got the ones about the community bins. And any delays that are in electric vehicles in cab tech.
Okay, yeah, in-cab, that's it, sorry. Yeah, so we went out to procurement for the in-cab technology, and the responses that we've had, we're now having to sort of reevaluate how we secure those products that we want, and we want to make sure we get the right products. So there is a slight delay, but it won't impact on the model. We'll have it in time for the waste model, but we haven't been able to award the contract through the procurement route that we took, so we're having to sort of reassess that, and project board will be making a decision on that probably in December as to what we do. It shouldn't hold up the system getting into place in time for the new waste model. It probably maybe put it about a 4 to 6 months maximum delay on the installation of the in-cab technology. And when with the communal collection points, obviously Bonnycrest is the first trial that we're doing. We chose Bonnycrest because it's got a number of significant challenges there, and we do know that the bin store regularly gets dumped in, not just by the residents that live there, but further afield as well. So we've chosen one of the most difficult sites so that we can learn from it, and put our learning into practice and work out how best to work with the partners, such as housing associations, property management companies who own and are responsible for the bin stores. There's always been fly tipping in those bin stores, not just of black bags, but of sofas and various things, and that's just one of the things that happens. That we're lucky in Denbighshire, we don't have a great deal. We've designed them out wherever we can, but they do bring with them a unique set of problems, and that's why we've started the trial so early. So the good thing is it's Denbighshire Housing that own the bin stores. We're working really productively with them to sort of make sure that we design out the problems, but we don't want to overkill it. So we know we can put some solutions in there that will help, but they're very costly, so we're trying not to. So we're doing it bit by bit until we figure out how far we need to push it. Do we need CCTV there? Well, I'd rather not put it there because there's a cost to that, so let's try and work on it before we have to, but we've got that to default to if we can. Do we need to fully enclose the bin store? That's a cost as well, and it would be an implication for other communal developments which they might not want to take on board. So we're just trying to work out how we can reduce the issues that we get at those areas. We've always had them, regardless of what waste model we'll have, and we probably always will. But I think the new containers that we've put in there are definitely doing their job, in that we're not getting the degree of contamination in the recycling containers that we did. We're not getting a lot of recycling either, because people are choosing to put all of their waste and not recycle it into the black bins, but we are out of we are getting a proportion of residents recycling there, and that's a start, because you can work with that. If you've got some people that are willing to do it right, then it tends to lead to better behaviours from neighbours as well. So we've got a seed there that I'm quite hopeful we can do something with.
Okay, thanks. A lot of education to do there. So just going back to the two questioners, Mervyn Parry and Glenn Swingler, just to check that they're okay with the answers. Mervyn first.
Yeah, I'm fine. It was just about the black bin, just to see if the black bin was more expensive than the blue bin, but I'm sure that was one of the big arguments.
Okay, is that the case?
Yeah, the actual, obviously, to dispose of the contents in a black bin costs more to treat that than sending it for recycling. So the more recycling we get out of the black bin, then the more we save, and that is actually exacerbated in the new model, because we get income from our recycler in the new model. So it's even more important that we pull that recycler out. We know it's quite old now, but there was a waste composition study done several years ago, and indicating that at least half of what was in our black bins could still be recycled. And a lot of it's food as well. We do quite well with food waste recycling, and I think generally the reason why Denbishire's been quite high in the ranks for many years is because people actually do make the effort to recycle, but there's still more to go. With regards to the black bin versus the blue bin, the actual bin itself, with all the new black bins are 100% made from recycled material, and so the trolley boxes as well, apart from the little coloured flaps and the coloured lid at the top, they're made from 100% recycled material as well. So it's a very high percentage overall of recycled materials, whereas the blue bin are 100% virgin material because of the colour. So in the new model, we're actually moving to the black trolley boxes with just little coloured flaps to minimise the amount of virgin material that we need in those products.
Okay, thanks. And Glenn, are you happy with the responses?
Yes, thank you, very, very good.
Yeah, well, so we're going to first of all Councillor Brian Blakely and then to Councillor Cheryl Williams. Brian.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think Tara's put it over very, very well there. She's allayed a lot of my fears. I think the carbon footprint, reducing the carbon footprint has done it for me. It just seems strange after all those years ago when we went to the Midlands to look at intermingling and also the food waste. We thought that was the future. The food waste certainly is the future. And how it's been put out about changing from intermingling to put everything into separate boxes is the way forward. And especially if we're going to be saving quite a lot of money. I think Tony did say some time ago that we were getting roughly £25–30 from Flintshire. Now we're having to pay them now to take the waste away. And with Conway going into this new scheme some time ago, and I believe Flintshire has, and I know the Wirral has, and talking to my sister-in-law in Flintshire, who was not too happy to start with, but seems to be quite okay with it now, that yes, I'm all for it. I think if there is any problems in the future, and I think Brian Jones said it earlier on, if we spend a little bit of time talking to maybe some of our elderly residents that are concerned, and I think they're the ones that's more concerned about how they're going to cope with these boxes. Are they going to get it right, and so forth? And if we spend a little bit of time with them, helping them, and I think that is the way forward. And as I said, reducing the carbon footprint at the end of the day, that's the way forward. We've got to do that. We've got to look at the future of this planet. I'll leave it at that, Chair. Just to say to Tony and everybody else, work hard on this. I do appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, thanks for those comments, Brian. So over to Cheryl Williams, Councillor Cheryl Williams.
Hi, I'm all, I'm very happy for the environment to be saved here, so I like the idea of this, but I have a few concerns. Again, Brian mentioned our elderly residents. Now, at the moment, I believe that they are being helped, that the people come into the gardens and come and get them. Hopefully that will follow in the new collection service. But there are concerns that I'm reading here on Appendix 2B, the wheel bin repairs. I know that they're not going to happen in the new one, but they're currently charged. And then the wheel bin containers, the new one, it talks of charges here as well. Now we've got elderly, vulnerable, people who've lost their jobs during the pandemic. I can't see these charges helping them because we're going to be putting all of these different things up that they already have to pay. So I think they're going to struggle. Is there any way that we can help them in this particular new system, please?
Okay, thanks. I'm going to go to Tony first of all, and then to Tara.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a few things, picking up on some of those comments and questions. Just following off on what Mervyn said and also what Brian was saying. The black bin is a big issue for us currently with people putting non-recyclable stuff in, but the blue bin has become a big issue and is becoming a bigger issue. The cost of dealing with the mixed recycling in the blue bin is increased very significantly in recent years and continues to do so. So that is becoming an issue as well. So, but I just wanted to make it clear that none of us are saying that the model that we've currently got was the wrong thing to do at the time. You know, the system was a good system based on the world as it was then. Things change, and that's why we're moving to a new model now, because the system we've got now isn't fit for purpose in the future. So I just wanted to make that clear, that we're not saying that it was a bad decision at the time to move to the current model. The assisted collections, yes, will continue under the new model. Charges for bins is something that we feel that we definitely need to have, because the cost to the council of not having that system in place is very significant indeed, and we don't think it's financially sustainable to have a position where we don't have charges for bins. But Tara probably wants to come in and say more about that, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Tara.
Okay, so the charges were introduced in November this year for wheel bins. It's still possible to get replacement caddies and things like that for free. So it's not linked to this service change, this model. It's a policy decision that is separate to this. It does impact on the new model in that what we've agreed to do, because obviously we want the new service change to be as successful as possible. All containers that we deliver as part of the new model obviously will be delivered free of charge, and we will have probably a 12-month kind of period where if people want extra sacks and want extra this and want to change whatever they've got to something different, they can do that free of charge as well, because we want everyone to have the system that's right for them. So that is important. Picking up on Cheryl's comment specifically about elderly residents, a lot of the replacement bin requests we get are from people, or have been from people, where we've got a lot of repeat requests where they're not looking after their bins, they're putting them out, they're leaving them out, and then they're going missing, or they're blue bins that have become contaminated because they haven't put the right things in them, so we haven't taken them. We've tagged the bin to say you need to sort the contamination out. People are phoning up asking for new ones because they can't be bothered to sort the contamination out. So we are trying to stop that behaviour, and that wasteful behaviour, unfortunately. And it's not, a lot of councils do now charge for waste containers. We are trying to get the balance right. If a lot of the black bins that are out there are actually quite old now, and they are giving. So it'd be good that in 18 months' time everyone will be getting a new bin. So hopefully a lot of these bins will last that length of time. But it was the cost on the budgets. It was a financial decision made by Cabinet to accept that change and that policy decision to save money in the service, really. But it isn't part of this model. It's a separate policy decision that would have been made regardless of whether we're changing services or not.
Okay, thanks. Brian, you want to come in again?
Please, Chair. Yeah, just to pick up on the comment about I think it was mentioned at the gate fee, how much we pay to dispose of the current blue bin. Again, back in 2018, we used to receive, I think I mentioned it, I think it was £29 per tonne. We received that for the blue bin at a place called UPM in Shotton. They're the people that take the contents of the blue bin away from us. But just as an illustration into what's happened with the swing, plus £29 that we received has now gone to minus, I think it's around the £80 mark per tonne. We have to pay UPM in Shotton. Tara will correct me if I'm wrong on that. But in the new year, that gate fee that they call it for the blue bin to go through to UPM in Shotton is going to go to over £100 a tonne. And that's a staggering swing in 3-4 years, and the financial pressure of that on the existing system, it doesn't need any more explaining. But as I've said,
if I can just come in there, Brian, we're actually looking that we have got a contract that takes us to June 23, which is when we actually need to switch our waste models. So we are tied in at our current gate fee price for that time, thankfully, because we've just evoked the extensions on that contract fully. So we don't need to go back out to tender where it could have actually gotten worse for us. The risk in the industry in general is that we know that Shotton, which is who take our material now, are closing down one of their materials sorting lines. They've recognised the change in the markets. They've recognised that they can make better use of their facility by processing cardboard themselves rather than selling it onto a secondary merchant. So they're actually shutting down the lines, and they're going to be accepting less commingled material in future, which will make it harder for us to secure a price going forward beyond June 23 that we've got now. So that's where the pressure comes from. That's where the price could significantly increase. Because if we had to then go to a different MRF, a different facility, you know, we'd have to pay a lot of extra transport costs to get there. We've got, in previous tenders, we've only had, the last tender was there was only the 2 submissions. One was in Northern Ireland. We do not want to be sending our recycling to Northern Ireland. And then one was a very new plant with, it was a very poor submission, unfortunately. And that was at the far side of England as well. So the costs on those gate fees were a lot higher because of the transport. And that's the risk we've got going forward.
Okay, thank you. Just want to go to Councillor Mervyn Parry.
So, sorry, Chair, for the delay. I should have declared an interest on this, a personal interest on this, on item number 6, because the company that I own does some work with Biogen, and Biogen handled the food waste for Denbighshire, Conway and Flintshire in Wine and St Asaph. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. We'll record that as a personal interest for Councillor Parry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Can I ask as well that Councillor Parry will send you a form to fill in electronically, if you can return it to us, please. And can I also ask members to refrain from using the chat function on Zoom, because sometimes we may miss those messages, and once the meeting has come to an end, those messages will disappear completely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a form here and I'm sending it you.
Okay, thanks. Just looking at hands now. I've got Cheryl and I've got Tara. Tara, you've replied already. Is that an old hand? Okay. Councillor Cheryl Williams.
Yeah, Tara didn't answer the bit where will elderly residents get help to bring them out like before, and is there help, because if they have to pay for the replacement bins, is there help out there for them to, you know, to help with the cost, if you know what I mean? That wasn't answered, sorry.
I think that was in the report, actually, Cheryl.
I think Tony mentioned that the assisted service will continue. So anyone who needs help with getting their bin out to the curbside, you know, our refuse collectors will come in currently and take that bin from a designated point, an agreed point. That will happen with the trolley box as well. With regards to the cost, at the moment, the policy that's in place and that was approved through delegated decision October, November time, is that there is no concessions for the bins. So that is the current policy. So we, you know, anyone who needs a new bin will have to pay £25 for one. What we do say is if people have got a larger bin and they want to downsize the bin, so if they're elderly and they want a smaller bin so they can manage it better, a lot of elderly people live on their own, so they don't need a larger bin, we will do that free of charge. So that it kind of helps them become more independent and be able to move their bin around a little easier. So there is a kind of a way around they could get to it. If they are on their own, they could actually say, well, I'll have a smaller one then, please, and then they'll get it for free. So there is a kind of a way around it, Joel. If it's something that the scrutiny want, you know, that to be considered, then obviously the service will look at that, but there will be a cost implication. You know, we can offer subsidies. It's not just elderly residents, it would be people on various, they'd have to qualify based on a sort of income means tested of some sort, I think.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going now outside the group, and we're going to the very patient Councillor Mary Cloyd Davis.
Wel, diolch i chi, Parchus Gadeirydd, a diolch yn fawr i chi am y cyfle. Gai ddiolch i Tara ac i bawb arall sydd wrth y gwaith yn gwneud yr adroddiad yma. ac am y gwaith yn Ddinbych wrth reswm, a da ni wedi cychwyn do ar y ganolfan yma no. Un o ddau o bethau gai, o'n i'n sylwi, rwy'ch ydy bach o hanes, dwi'n meddwl bod chi bron iawn wedi rhoi'r cefndir yn iawn, achos bydd Llywodraeth Cymru a'r Llywodraeth y Cynulliad yn erbyn ers blynyddoedd y gys-dolwyn yn Sir Ddinbych. Ond yn y dechrau roedd a'i golchi y gorau yng Nghymru gyda'r gys-dolwyn ac yn talu ym lle adeg honno. Ond fel da chi wedi clywed, oedd y drefn o gynna ni o newid pethau o'i gilydd, tynnu pethau o'i gilydd, yn mynd yn gostus, a da chi wedi clywed y gos, mae'r cynghorydd Brian Jones wedi tynnu sylw at hynny. Felly o'r rhaid, mae'r Llywodraeth wan wedi rhoi pyn bach o bres i ni, ac yn edrych i ni newid, a da ni'n garfod newid wrth reswm. Ond mi ddoth y gwneidog i fyny blynyddoedd yn ôl, oedd ynglyn â hyn, i weld y gys-dolwyn, ac mi o rhaid i dderbyn fod o'n system ardderchog ar y pryd. Ond da ni wrth reswm wan yn newid. Ac wrth reswm da chi'n mynd wan i'r blwch drol, sydd yn system yn Conwy ers blynyddoedd wrth reswm wan, ac dwi'n siŵr bod chi wedi dysgu llawer wrth wrando arnyn nhw. Dwi'n cymryd fyddwch chi ddim yn codi am flwch newydd os ydy'r gwynt wedi'w ddalo am bod o allan ger y ffordd. Gawson ni wyntoedd mawr a dwi wedi sylwi droion y cadi bwyd wedi'w falu oherwydd y gwynt am bod o yn y ffordd yn amlach na dim. Os newch chi droi i tudalen 91, adran 24, mae'n deud y fanno, ers Tachwedd y cyntaf flwyddyn hon, dewisiad dirprwyedig oedd y gost, felly diolch wedi bod i Pwyllgor na chdi yn ôl hynna, ond dwi'n mynd dadle am hwnna. A'r cwestiwn ar ei cynghorydd Brian Jones ofyn i mi, ofyn i chi heddiw hefyd, oedd, da chi'n sôn am defnyddiau, ond dwi'n yn siŵr textiles da chi'n galw nhw, ydy hynny'n golygu dillad, achos rhywbeth wedi weu yn ôl y geiriadur Cymraeg ydy textile, a be am carpiau, pethau sydd yn dyllog, a ddim yn gallu cael ei ail ddefnydd. Fyddwch chi'n derbyn heini yn rhywle. Wrach bod chi wedi deud RHYL, dwi'n yn siŵr, a'i denodd ystyr textile yn Saesneg. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi, Mr Cadeirydd.
Okay, diolch. Tara, do you want to take that?
I think Tara will answer those questions, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. I'll start with the textile one. So textiles is a general term that we use for sort of any sort of fabric clothing and other items. And what happens, co-options will collect textiles and they will sort them. So if the textiles are in good condition and can be worn again, for example, because they are clothing, or used again, because they also collect shoes and a few other things as well, then they will clean those up and sell them in their charity shop in the RHYL town centre. And the lower quality textiles that may have holes, may be damaged, they can actually be sent to proper textile reprocessors that will treat those textiles and recover the fibres from those textiles and repurpose them into new materials. So just because something's got holes in it doesn't mean that it's of no value. It's still better. Textiles has got one of the highest carbon content of anything, and the making of clothes, and the fact that a lot of the cotton comes from so far away, it's got a really high carbon footprint. So it is really important to keep as many textiles out of the black bin as we can, even if they're not in very good condition. There will be a line drawn, you know, and that line changes with time. So we're not going to say what that line is as to what we can and can't accept. Most textile collectors do not accept pillows and duvets and things like that because they, you know, there isn't a market for them. They're stuck with them if they've got them. They can't do anything with them. So there are lines drawn, but certainly all clothing items, irrespective of condition, what we do ask is that people don't give them to us in a soiled condition, because it's not very nice for the other people at the other end who have to go through those bags and sort them. And we do sometimes get textiles in very poor condition that you know, contaminates other clothing as well. So it's important to keep that quite clean. So I hope that answers the textile question.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay, Mary?
Just i wneud yn glir, lle da ni'n mynd â nhw, dim ond i'r RHYL, ia, neu Ddinbych, da chi'n mynd hel nhw yn y tŷ, dwi'n meddwl, nag dach, ac da chi yn gywir, rhywbeth efo twll, carpia ni feddwl, rhywbeth sydd wedi mynd heibio i gael ei drwsio, da chi wedi sôn am ddefnyddio'r defnydd, ond lle mae hynny i'w gosod, i le dwi'n mynd â nhw, diolch yn fawr.
There are a number of bring banks around the county. What I can do is I can send a link to RHAN after the meeting, and that will send you to where all of the banks are that can be deposited. But also, depending on where you live, co-options do offer fortnightly curbside collections. They can send you their particular bags, and you can put them out. The collection is always on your recycling day. But as I said earlier in the meeting, it's not for. It's mainly in the north. Kind of stops sort of just south of Ddinbych, but we are going to be expanding that in the longer term. But there are quite a few textile banks out on car parks. There are private banks out there as well. Some you know, private businesses have banks, that charity banks out there as well. But I'll make sure that RHAN gets the link so that you know where they all are. And we do of course take them at the 3 household recycling centres as well. And yeah, rags is fine, as long as, if they're really oily, if you've been using it to clean your car and they're really oily and dirty, then that is probably best off going in the black bin, unfortunately, because we don't want to contaminate the other textiles that are in the process. And obviously all our waste now, it doesn't go to landfill, it goes to an energy to waste facility up in Queen's Ferry. And it's whilst it is burnt, it is incinerated, it is done so in the sort of like, least harmful way that you can do that. So at very, very high temperatures, the energy produced is used to power the grid, and also all of the toxins are captured under quite strict monitoring guidance as well.
Thanks, Tara. Just before I bring Glenn in, who's put his hand up, I'm going to have a go myself. So I've got, I did have a very long list at the start of the meeting, and I've ticked them all off, and there's just 3 points, one of which I think is quite important to me, but probably not to other members. And it's not about the D Valley. It's not. I'm not trying to be parochial. But the first point is about private and unadopted roads. You say the policy hasn't changed, which I'm pleased to hear reading this policy. Just to clarify, could you give us a couple of examples, thinking of rural areas particularly, where people probably do have longer drives and farms and so on, because my understanding was that council vehicles would not go off county roads, but the policy seems to indicate that they won't. So just perhaps you could give us a couple of examples there. One other small point was about the D Valley, and I shall be writing to Tony for clarification on that one. But the one that's probably a bit more contentious is the idea of actually marking all the wheelie bins with a identification, a chip identification, and I personally don't like the idea of having surveillance of everybody because a few people don't behave themselves or don't do things in the right way. I mean, I've raised this question at schools, for example, where they want to install video cameras on every single corridor and classroom and so on. And I don't think that because there are a few people that don't follow the rules, we should introduce mass surveillance. Now, putting these tags on bins, I know that the vast majority of Denbighshire residents have no problem whatsoever with the sort of stuff that they put in bins. So we're trying to get to a very small number of people, but I don't like the idea of having Big Brother. Perhaps we should say big person these days, but we don't like the idea of this idea that somebody's watching all the time to make sure that you stay in line. And I just wonder if you could talk us through the incidents where there are people that contravene the rules, and that causes terrible problems for everybody. Is it a massive cost? Is it a lot of people? Is there a different way that that could be done rather than, and it might be the easiest and cheapest, but I don't like the idea of having everyone under surveillance because someone's put a bit of film in the wrong bin. Tara, do you want to start with that one?
Can I just start before Tara comes in, Chair, on that, just on that point? The main point I'm going to make is that it isn't surveillance. Bin brother, I think, was the term you're looking for in relation to this. But it's not surveillance, Chair. Basically, all this does is tell us which property the bin belongs to. It's just a more efficient and effective way of doing what we try to do currently in a manual way. And it reduces a lot of issues in terms of, you know, if bins go missing, you know, we'll be able to tell which bin is associated with which property, that kind of thing. If sometimes bins are put out in some areas in similar locations, you'll get a number of bins in one place. So it enables us to differentiate if we've got an issue. You know, which property has the issue, so we can talk to people and help them to resolve those issues. There's genuinely nothing sinister about this, and it's not surveillance. It's just a modern and effective way of managing the service. That's all it is. But Tara will come in, I'm sure.
Yeah, on that point, we actually, just before the first lockdown, seems a very long time ago now, doesn't it? We launched a campaign called Keep Up with the Joneses, and it was a campaign around getting people to really think about what was going in the black bin and getting that recycling out of the black bin. And it was working quite well, in that we would basically, we already have a system on the vehicles where the crews report if something is wrong with the bin. So they've historically always focused on the blue bin. So if the blue bin is presented contaminated, they'll flag it up through a system called TrackQ on the vehicle, and then we would go and visit that household to try and intervene to find out why they were putting the wrong thing in the bin. So the Keep Up with the Joneses campaign in 2019, at the tail end of that year, was really about you know, the crews keeping an eye on what was going in the black bin, and if it was really obvious that there was a lot of recycling going in the black bin, they would press the button on a certain button that had a certain code on the vehicle, and that would then, we would then go out, we would then write to those people to say, look, you know, you've been flagged up on the system, there's a lot of recycling in your bin. Well, what we actually found from that is that the data that the crews were giving us wasn't very accurate. The tracker on the vehicle doesn't always exactly pick up the location. If the member of the public hasn't put their bin number on the bin, for example, they may have had to guess which house it was from. And so we actually got a lot of, it was a really good campaign in that a lot of our recycling rates actually did go up a little bit during that period. And people were making the effort because of the leaflet they'd had and because they knew this campaign was going to happen. But we couldn't accurately follow it through because we kept finding that people were getting letters, maybe the neighbour, and they didn't, you know, as far as they were concerned, they were doing it correctly. So we didn't have accurate information. The bin chip will allow us to have absolute accurate information so that we are talking to the people that we need to talk to, so that the mass surveillance won't happen. It'll only start to flag up if someone is doing the wrong thing, but it'll give us the right data. And that is ultimately what we need. We need to be able to get the right data quickly so that we can engage through our 4-step enforcement process as efficiently as we can and know that we're targeting the right people and not upset all the people that are doing it correctly because we've written to the wrong address by accident. Only way to do that really is, you know, in any kind of efficient way, is to have the bin chip data. The bin chip data also tells us if someone hasn't presented a bin for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks, for 5, well, you know, for however many cycles, it will flag up that no bin's been put out. So we can engage with that property. Have they moved house? Is it empty? You know, is there a problem in that property? You know, have they lost the bin and not got a new one, and therefore they're flying in their bags somewhere else? So it starts to give us data, but we'll only act on data from the property if there's something wrong. So the vast majority of people that you alluded to won't be impacted by this at all.
Okay, thanks.
You've got a couple of other points about adopted roads, so I'll come back on that one. The unadopted roads policy, yeah, the wording of the policy isn't changing. We've had a policy in place for quite some time. I don't think in all cases we actually adhere to the policy. So I think over time, there has been some pushback from people who do live up quite long lanes. And where we've been able to safely collect waste, in some cases, we do go up those lanes and we do collect from the curtilage of the property or a little bit closer. And sometimes we have to go up the lanes regardless because we've got assisted collections up there. So we would have to go up anyway. So if you're going up, you know, a half a mile long lane and there are two properties, it would make sense to collect from both properties while you're there because one person is on an assist anyway. So I think it's a policy that needs, as we are rolling out the new model and we're routing everything, we have got to a point now where we know what route all the properties are on. We will be looking at that very carefully to make sure that if there are any changes for any individuals at all, that we do engage with those properties. But for the most part, I think most of them are staying as they are currently, which, you know, we've actually increased our vehicle list, haven't we, Tony, by one small vehicle that over what was modelled, so that we can do more collections closer to people's properties through the new model. But that doesn't mean that means that everybody will have that opportunity, because the policy does exist. If there is a safe place to put or to store a container, you know, at the end of the driveway, where we can collect it safely and we're not too close to a busy road, then we will do so. Or we'll look for a point somewhere up that lane where we can turn around. Sometimes we get right up to the property and we can't turn around safely with the vehicles that we've got. But a couple of the recycling vehicles that we're ordering are actually really, you know, they're quite small, they're quite nippy. So we will be able to access some of these properties. But we will, just to re-emphasise the assists, if anybody does need an assisted collection, they will still get one.
Thanks. I mean, the concern was raised by the community council, one of the community councils in the area, and they were concerned really on behalf of the operatives, because they understood that as soon as the vehicle went onto private property, anything that happened, there wouldn't be insured for. So I think you probably satisfied me on that one. But it is about this consistency as well, isn't it, to make sure that it is consistent across.
It's up to us as a operational crew. The driver will make an assessment. If there's suddenly a pothole appears or there's a bridge that they don't feel is safe or whatever, then they will decline that collection and they'll have to report it. We'll have to engage with the resident or the landowner. But you know, if you know, we don't want unnecessary wear and tear on the vehicles, and we know that the vehicles, some of the vehicles in the south of the county do not last as long because of the sort of rougher terrain that they are going over. But you know, we want to offer, you know, a convenient service to as many people as possible. So that's what we intend to do.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for your comments on the other part. I'm not sure I'm satisfied with that, but that's the answer, and other people are not on my side.
We are doing a small trial in West RHYL. We're hoping to roll out microchip bins probably February, March, maybe slightly into January. So we will be able to report back to scrutiny on how that goes. I think West RHYL is a really important area to have microchip bins, because a lot of bins are left out when they shouldn't be, and they will get stolen now, and we're seeing that now because of the bin charges. People are taking bins. So I think there's a lot of low-income households in those areas that can't afford easily to pay for a replacement bin. So if it means that we can recover those bins and get them back to the right person, then that will really help.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Going to go to Glenn and then to Brian, and then we'll close, I think, and move to the recommendation. So Glenn, first of all.
Thank you. Yes, you just brought up my next point, which was about the microchipping. Firstly, is it only the black bins we're microchipping? The second thing is, it says that, you know, any damage will go to the cost will go to the people whose house it is. What sort of costs are we looking at to replace microchips or something like that? The other issue I have is that many of us live in terraced houses where all our bins are right outside the front of our houses permanently, because they can't be wheeled around each time. People, you know, so if they get damaged, and do you then report that your bin got damaged overnight or whilst you're out on the property, will people still be charged?
Okay, Tara, you're going to take that.
Okay, so the charging bit, that's really linked to the charging policy as opposed to any sort of other policies that we're introducing around the microchipping. I think you know, people have got a responsibility to look after the bin when it's not being presented. You know, so obviously on collection day it's out on the curbside, and you know, we want people to wheel it back in onto the property. So if we've got areas, if we've got households that can't store their bins securely on their own property, and it sounds like you're one, Glenn, maybe I can I'll pop round and we'll have a look at your street, because it could be a really good example. We need to consider whether that is actually the best solution, because I'm assuming as residents, you probably would rather not have wheelie bins all out the front of your properties. You know, there are other solutions under this model that we could potentially trial, but you know, the residents have got to want to change that. You know, people like to have bins because it does contain the rubbish quite well, the black bins, compared to just having a sack system. But with the gulf-proof sacks that we're trialing in West RHYL, if they work really well, that might be an alternative solution that might be preferred. So yeah, it'd be interesting. You know, again, we could use your street potentially as a case study and have a look at what is the best solution going forward. Let's think out of the box. Let's not do what we've always done just because that's what we've always done. More than happy to look at options and see what everybody would like to do. Yeah, we will encourage people to be storing the bin on the property, and that's the issue really. If you've got streets that are not like that and not able to do that, should they be on bins at all? Really, I think is the main issue.
Okay.
Yeah. May I, Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, but you're more than welcome to come down to mine anytime, so I'll put the kettle on. Yes, there is. You know, for me to take my I don't have wheelie bins. I asked for wheelie bins, and they're refusing to give me one. I don't know why, because my neighbours have them, but that's another issue. But it's an awful long walk round to take the bins from the back of the house and then up some steps to then walk all the way round to the. So yeah, that's just one example.
Right, that's why you don't have them. Yeah.
So well, no, but my neighbours do, and they have to wheel them all the way round. Except 2 or 3 of them keep their wheelie bins outside the front all the time. If you come down Mill Road, you know, on any given day, you'll see wheelie bins just going all the way down the street. Any day of the week, because it's easier to keep them out the front than try and get them through the house. In fact, you probably couldn't get them through the house. So yeah, so it was just that, and about the cost. I just worry that if my wheelie bin, for example, got damaged and I noticed it was damaged at some point, and I phoned up council and I said, listen, I've just noticed that my microchip thing has been half scratched off, or I put the bin out overnight ready for collection early the next morning, or I've noticed my microchip, would I be the one liable for the charge?
I think the good news is that the bins that we've ordered, and that we've actually got most of them in stock as well, the way they've been put in during the manufacturing stage. So actually it would be it'd be almost impossible to deliberately damage it knowing where the chip was. So I don't think it's actually an issue. We were looking, I think, at retrofitting some microchips, and we may have to do that to some and that's a chip that goes in the hinge. So it would be obvious deliberate damage if it was done. It wouldn't be accidental. It would look deliberate, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. But ultimately, if it's just the chip that needs replacing, it's 90 pence at the end of the day. It's not a full bin. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. But you can challenge it on me if it ever becomes one.
Yeah,
okay.
Thanks, Todd. And is it just the black bins we're microchipping?
It is. That's what we propose at the moment, plus the gulf-proof sacks that we issue for residents that don't have bins as well. And we're proposing to put chips on the recycling sacks and the black sacks, reusable sacks for those households, mainly because we can return them if they do, sort of wander or blow away or whatever. So we think we're going to do it on both for those.
Sounds like the chip has turned into an implant now.
Yeah, it's extremely hard to get out, I think.
Tony, are you going to add something to this particular point?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, Chair, if I could, that people don't need to be worried about these chips on the bin. The chips are not collecting data about people. It's not surveillance. It just enables us to know whose bin is who. We need to utilize technology to run a modern, efficient service. We could carry on using pen and paper to try and run the service, but ultimately that's not efficient or effective, and will end up costing us a lot more money. This isn't doing anything that we don't already do. It just enables us to do it more effectively and efficiently. So it's not collecting data, and it's, people don't need to be worried about it.
Okay, thank you. Go to Tina Jones.
Thank you. Going back to Glenn's issue about the bins being outside the houses, it is one of my pet hates to see rows and rows of bins outside the front of houses. Is there anything we could do about that? Can we provide some sort of camouflage or something like that? But it looks awful, especially on nice streets. And I also think it ought to be brought into planning that when these new houses are built, that they should have storage areas for the bins. I don't know what everybody else's views on that.
I think that probably is already in the planning laws. I'm not an expert on them, but I don't know if anybody is. But
hello, Chair. It's in the building regulations.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Yeah, what can be done when the bins are left outside houses? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two different situations that we find ourselves in. There'll be terrace houses that do have a frontage, and the residents choose to store their bins at the front on their own property, but it's in that small sort of space that they have, usually by their bay window or next to their doors. And there's very little we can do about that. If that's what the residents choose to, how they choose to store the bins, they're on their own property and it's their responsibility. And then you've got the situation where some people don't always take their bins back in and get into the habit of just leaving their bins maybe in an alleyway or on the corner of an alleyway or on the street for long periods of time or even permanently. And that is actually an offence under Section 46 of the Environmental Protection Act. And it's part of our enforcement policies. We do have a way of dealing with that when we know whose that bin is and who it belongs to. The microchipping will obviously help us identify who those people are very quickly, so that we can engage with them and make sure they do have somewhere to store their bin. Obviously, during the switch of bins, which we will do in 2023, because most people will be getting a larger 240 bin, we'll be able to I think probably over the last 10 years, some people have managed to acquire bins who shouldn't really have them, who haven't got anywhere to store them. And they've probably promised to keep them in their backyard and store them in the backyard and just use them for storage, and then they've started to present them. This will be an opportunity really to clear all that up when we do the bin swaps and make sure that only those people who've got somewhere to store them actually do so.
Okay, thanks. So we go to the recommendations. 3 recommendations on page 49. Apologies. More hands. Let's have 2 final hands, and then.
Yeah, dwi'n ymddiheuro am mod i'n mewn.
I think Merrick had his hand up first, if you don't mind, Emrys.
I shall wait.
Yn byr iawn, Mr Cadeirydd, diolch yn fawr. Sylwi bod chi am gychwyn yn bron y crest hefo'r system newydd, gorllewin RHYL. Pam da chi mam roi cynnig ar gefn gwlad hefyd? Ydych chi bigo i ni gael gweld sut mae'r ddau yn gweithio, a ddim jyst un. Diolch yn fawr.
Should we go straight to Emrys and then we'll...
Yeah, dwi'n ymddiheuro mod i'n dod i mewn i drafodaeth yn hwyr ar y cychwyn i ddechrau. Mae mi di amnelu am 11 yn tywaith. Dim ond eisiau pigo fyny sydyn i'r ateb mae Tina newydd i gael rwan mewn gwirionedd pam dwi'n dod i fyny jyst cyn i chi fynd at yr argymelliad. Da ni'n trafod gwastraff domestig yma, fi'n sylweddoli hynny. Ond mae'r broblem o dduniau'n cael ei gadael yn yr mannau cyhoeddus yn broblem yn y gael o trefyn arbennig lle mae yna fusnesau gati hefyd sydd ddim yn clirio dduniau sy'n cael ei gasglu gan gwmnïau preifat fel arfer. Oes gan Sir Ddinbych yr hawl i erlyn os oes rhaid, neu yn sicr i gyfarwyddo busnesau sydd ddim yn cyd-fynd, sydd ddim yn cyd-ynffurfio a'r rheolau ynghylch gadael biniau ar y pafin ag ati, neu yn Rhuthun. Dyn ni wedi cael 2 enghraifft yn ddiweddar o ddiniau'n cael ei gadael ar y sgwâr yn Rhuthun yn Harddwch lle'n anffodus, ac maen nhw'n cael eu defnyddio gan bobl sydd yn ymweld, heb yn wybod iddyn nhw meddwl bod y biniau ar gael i'r cyhoedd i'w defnyddio hefyd. Mae yn digwydd, mae wedi digwydd dros y flwyddyn dwytha yma. Be ydy'r pwerau sydd gen i ni fel sir i sicrhau nad ydy'r ni'n digwydd? Efallai bod o'n nelodd i'n byd y drafodaeth heddiw, dwi'n ymddiheuro os ydy'r achos, ond os oes ateb ar gael, fydd falch i'ch chael. Diolch yn fawr.
Yeah, I think perhaps we can just have a quick reinforcement of, I think, Tara, you mentioned part of the enforcement action.
Yes, so for the businesses, it's still under the Environmental Protection Act, but it's section 47 is their duty of care. And in that duty of care, they have to have a trade waste agreement, they have to have adequate waste collections, and they have to store their waste securely. So when the bin is presented out for collection, then it has to be with a closed lid so that no waste can escape. And of course, they're not allowed to store their waste containers on the public highway either. So if that is happening, then we can do something about it as an enforcement section. I am a little bit low on enforcement resources at the moment. There's adverts out at the moment for a senior environmental crime officer and a change manager. So I am hoping to boost that team very, very soon. But yeah, absolutely, we can. The cases in Rhuthun we can deal with. If you want to email me separately with the details of that, then I'm happy to go and visit those businesses, have my officers visit those businesses. The other thing is we have a enforcement contract with district enforcement who carry out our litter patrols and dog prowling patrols, and I am working up a trial with them. We're in the final year of contract with them under an extension, and they have offered to carry out some duty of care visits to businesses. And they do that with other contracts across other councils. And when, you know, because we haven't got the resources we'd like at the moment in our department, it's something that they could pick up on as well. It's a straightforward fixed penalty that we can issue. If we issue a notice to a business because they're not doing the right thing, if they don't comply, we can then issue a fixed penalty. So there is an incentive for them to do the right thing. I think what some businesses are suffering from, though, to be fair on them at the moment, is a lot of the private waste collection firms are a bit hit and miss with their collections. The whole waste industry at the moment is suffering from driver shortages, and COVID is still impacting. And I think bins are being left out sometimes, ready for a collection that is not happening, and it's become a bit more ad hoc. And so we may be seeing more business waste containers out there than usual because of those issues.
Yeah, diolch Cadeirydd.
Very much, thanks.
Diolch, Sarah.
So,
and just to
recommendations.
Should I pull on Merrick's point about the trials?
Oh, apologies, yeah.
Yeah.
So, recommendations.
Sorry, just want to because he asked me about the trials. The trials that we're doing in West RHYL, the reason we've chosen West RHYL is because it has got a very broad range of property types, and different types of systems are needed in that one small area. So it's a good place to do the trial and then see how that can be applied across the county. We don't intend to trial the trolley box service ahead of its again, other than to remind members that I'm going to be sending out an email very soon. If you want to, as an individual member, you can sign up to a trial with the trolley box where you'll go onto the new system for about 8 weeks. I'm hoping it will be February and March that you will go onto that system, so you can give it a go yourselves, and that will give all members some insight into how that system works, the sort of comms that you'll be that the residents and households will be given. So if you've got a blue bin now and you want to try out a trolley box and try out the new system for a couple of months, there will be an opportunity to do that. We mentioned it at the last scrutiny, and we wanted to do the trial this autumn, but we have struggled to keep services going over the last few months because of the various challenges the industry is facing at the moment. But we're hoping to get that trial out just before we restart garden waste again. We start the heavy season of garden waste. So we've got some spare driving capacity to do those trials.
Okay.
Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you very much. Thanks. So let's go to the recommendations, which are on page 49. 3.1, that the members discuss the progress made by the project team delivering the new waste and recycling service to residents by summer 2023. Secondly, 3.2, that members consider and endorse the suite of household waste and recycling policies, Appendix 2, and note that the Head of Highways and Environmental Services intends to ensure that policies are adopted through the delegated decision process by March 2022. And thirdly, 3.3, that the Head of Highways and Environmental Services brings a future report to Community Scrutiny Committee on the pilot project outcomes in West RHYL, brackets, use of microchips in waste containers, close brackets, Bronner Crest and communal bin service change and elected member recycling experience initiative.
Hello. Yeah, well,
Brian, I'm just going to say.
Who's okay. Right. So they're the three recommendations. Could we have a proposer, please?
I propose, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peter Scott proposes, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Mervyn Parry. Seconds. All those in favour of the recommendations? Okay, those against? And any abstentions? Didn't see anyone abstain there. Can we just do the vote again, please? Just go through again. Those in favour? And those against? Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's carried. So
what was the score, Chair?
It was unanimous as far as I could see.
Okay, thank you. No, just for me to know.
Yeah, I think it was a delay on the camera, and it looked as if someone had their hand up when I said against, and when we reran it, it didn't appear. So yeah, that's what I was clearing up. Can I just thank all of those who've been presenting the reports this morning so far? Councillor Brian Jones as lead member, Tony Ward, Tara, and the others who were on the earlier report. That was a really good session, I think, on that particular issue, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it when it goes to Cabinet in March next year. So diolch yn fawr I bawb.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all.
So we're going to move on to the next item now. 11:58. So we're going to go to the scrutiny work programme, which is on page 127. So over to our scrutiny coordinator to introduce it. Rhian.
Diolch yn fawr. Dyma'r rhaglen waith arferol. Yn atodiad 1, tudalen 133, mae'r rhaglen waith fel mae ar hyn o bryd. Mae'ch cyfarfod nesaf chi ar yr 20 o Ionawr, a mae gennych chi 4 eitem eitha sylweddol yn fanne. Felly fyswn ni'n awgrymu nad ydych chi ddim angen unrhyw eitem arall ar eich rhaglen waith ar gyfer hynny. Fel ydych chi'n gwybod, mae'r grŵp cadeiryddion ac is-gadeiryddion yn penderfynu os oes eitemau angen I anfon ymlaen atoch chi i'w graffu arnyn nhw. Mi ada'r i'r grŵp gyfarfod dwytha'r 5 ar 20 o Dachwedd, a doedd na ddim eitemau ganddyn nhw wedi cyfeirio atoch chi y tro yma. Un peth wnaethon nhw drafod yn y cyfarfod yno hefyd oedd yr arferiad oedd cyfarfodydd craffu mynd I gael ei cynnal yn y cyfnod neu cyn yr etholiadau lleol ym mis Mai. Fydd y gyfnod o tua 6 wythnos o ganol mis Mawrth ymlaen, pen na fydd penderfyniadau dadleuol o unrhyw fath yn cael ei cymryd. Felly y penderfyniad oedd yn y cyfarfod yno na fydd y Pwyllgorau Craffu yn cyfarfod oni bai bod yna eitem frys na feder aros yn angen ei thrafod. Felly mi fydd eich cyfarfod ola chi, felly cyn yr etholiadau lleol, fel mae pethau'n sefyll ar hyn o bryd, ar y 10 o Fawrth, rhyw 10 diwrnod dwi'n meddwl cyn i'r cyfnod cyn etholiadol neu ddod I fewn. So mae gennych chi 2 gyfarfod cyn yr etholiadau, a mae gennych chi dipyn o eitemau, Mae yna eitemau dair eitem ar yr un maws a 4 ar yr un mis Ionawr. So mae gennych chi ddigon o waith i'ch cadw chi fynd. Os oes gennych chi eitem da chi'n meddwl fysa'n werth craffu arni'n y dyfodol, mae'r ffurflen gais yn atodiad 2. Os newch chi lenwi honna i fewn ei anfon i atai, mae'r grŵp cadeiryddion yn cyfarfod nesaf ar yr 20 o Ionawr yn y pnawn, felly mi wnawn nhw ystyried y cais amser ynny. Yn atodiad 3, mae'r rhaglen waith y cabinet, gwybodaeth i chi, a wedyn yn atodiad 4, mae'r diweddara ar eich argymhellion chi o'r cyfarfod dwytha. Yn y cyfarfod dwytha, mi gaethoch chi adroddiad ar ffos yr Hyl a gwter prestatyn, a mi wnaethoch chi ofyn am fanylion o unrhyw dir yn ardal y ddwy afon yno, os oedd yn berchnogaeth y cyngor. Fel ar ni esbonio amser hynny, mae'n andros o fater cymhleth oherwydd y nifer o dau a llefydd sydd mewn perchnogaeth breifat yn yr ardal yno, a felly nhw sydd yn gyfrifol am eu terfynau nhw gyda'r ffos neu gyda'r gwter. Yn yr ddogfen nes i anfon atoch chi dydd Llun, mae yna fapiau yna o wahanol adrannau o'r ddwy ffos yna, a mae'n dangos yn hwnnw ar linell goch pa adrannau sydd ym mherchnogaeth y cyngor. Oedd hwnna'n ymateb i gais wneud fod gennych chi tro dwytha. Mae'r wybodaeth yna hefyd wedi i gyflwyno i'r grŵp tasg a gorchwil sy'n edrych i mewn i lifogydd a pherchnogaeth glannau afonydd. Dyna fod yn meddwl, dwi'n meddwl bod yna ddim byd gyda i.
Okay, thanks, Rhian. Any members want to bring any points up? No, okay, there we are. Complete satisfaction straight away, Rhian. So let's move to the recommendations then quickly. 3.1, the committee considers the information provided and approves, revises or amends its work programme as it deems appropriate. And 3.2, the committee determines whether any key messages or themes from current meetings should be publicised via the press and or social media. We do that one on webcast anyway. That's something that people could raise if they wish to. So they're the recommendations. Have we got a proposer?
I'll propose.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Cheryl Williams and Councillor Brian Blakely from RHYL also to second. Those in favour? Okay, any against? Right, thank you very much. So that's carried. And so finally, just to say, it's now just gone 12 o'clock. We're regrouping at 1 for the final item. Apologies. You can see I'm not very good at this, can't you? But I've just had a whisper in my ear. We've missed out the feedback from members who represent our committee elsewhere. Is there any feedback from members? Here we go. We're going to listen to the silence now.
Nope.
There we are. No feedback.
Not this time.
So, we'll see you all at 1 o'clock.
Thank you, Chair. Good. Yes.
I'm talking about then.
So we've got to pretend to be professional again.
Thank you, Chair. Much appreciated.
Ready to begin the webcast for the final bit. Okay. Yeah. Pawb, croeso nôl, or croeso if you haven't been this morning. So, excuse me, we're on the final item of the agenda. So that's item 9, which is about Denbighshire Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment 2021, and a report back to us from the committee that's been set up to look at that. That's been the Task and Finish group. I think first of all, I just want to thank the group because it was set up as a result of a discussion at community scrutinies quite a while ago, and I think we've got 3 of the members who are actually members of the Task and Finish group who are on the community scrutiny as well. And it's been a really heavy workload, I think, over the last 9 months or so. They've been to lots of meetings. They've been dealing with really important issues on behalf of the rest of the council. as a member of their MAG, the representative of their MAG. And today's meeting, I think, when we hear the details of the report, which we've all seen anyway, I think that we'll be very thankful for the work that they've done, and officers too. A tremendous amount of work has gone into getting this far. It was our committee that, excuse me, that is concerned about making sure that councillors are fully involved, and I think we have that opportunity. So thanks very much. So I'm going to hand over to Councillor Mark Young first of all, who's the lead member, and to give a brief introduction. And I think then it's on to Barry, the chair of the Task and Finish group, to introduce the report. Councillor Young, over to you.
Okay, Jochen, thank you very much, Chair, and our councillors, officers. As you know from the previous report, there is a legal duty under the Housing Act in Wales 2014 for all councils to undertake a new gypsy and traveller accommodation assessment. An up-to-date gypsy and traveller accommodation is also a requirement of the LDP, which is a critical document for land management for the county. The council is required to submit the new gypsy and traveller accommodation assessment to Welsh Government by February 2022. A project board was established to manage this piece of work, with the leader, myself, and working together with senior officers to plan our approach. Taking on feedback from Community Scrutiny Committee about the early engagement of members in the process, you agreed in May this year to establish a Task and Finish group to support this work. The Task and Finish group reported back to this committee on July the 26th of this year. It was only with this endorsement that this committee and the assessment itself started at the beginning of August through to October. The work on the gypsy and travel accommodation assessment has now been concluded, and you have a copy of the draft GTAA report. Before I update you on the findings of the report, I would like to hand over to Councillor Barry Miller to report back on the work of the Task and Finish group. I'll hand over to you now, Councillor Barry Miller. Jochen Vow.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mark. As the lead member has said, a Task and Finish group was set up with an elected member from each member area group to help with this work. This group have met 6 times in total. In one of the first meetings we met with the consultants ORS and were given some information on their background and experience. We were satisfied that they had plenty of experience across the UK of doing these types of assessments and of completing interviews with gypsy and traveller communities. After the first 4 meetings, the group were able to present a work brief and stakeholder communications and engagement plan to Community Scrutiny Committee. We were satisfied that these documents set out what we needed to do to comply with the Welsh Government methodology on producing the GTAA. The Task and Finish group also wanted there to be a good communication with the elected members and the travelling community and local residents. So we asked for some additional tasks to be included in the plans. This included online survey for the elected members, city and town and community councils to share their local knowledge with the consultants, and posters to be displayed across our communities. The assessment started at the beginning of August, and we met as a group in September to review the progress. At this stage, we were satisfied that everything was being progressed in line with the work brief and the stakeholder communication and engagement plan. Our final meeting was in November, when we received the report on the work that had been done to complete the assessment and the final findings and recommendations. The group were happy that everything that we set out to do in the work brief and the stakeholder communications and engagement plan had been done. In summary, though, as a group, we were satisfied that we have put a large amount of work into reviewing data from a variety of sources and promoting the survey, and we were satisfied that the findings and recommendations of the assessment are the result of the following: the Welsh Government methodology and applying a robust approach to the work. As a group, we felt that member task and finish group worked really well, and we would like to see this approach used again in the future. I'd like to hand back to Mark as lead member. Thank you, members.
Okay, Jock and everybody. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Task and Finish group members for their hard work on this, and also yourself, Councillor Mellor, on taking on the role of chair. It's very much appreciated. As Councillor Mellor has said, the Task and Finish group were able to develop the plan of the work. They monitored progress, and when reviewing the findings, were satisfied that a robust approach has been taken and that the councillors complied with the Welsh Government methodology. You've been provided with a copy of the draft Gypsy and Traveller Accommodation Assessment Report, but please note Appendix D, containing personal information about the respondents, is excluded from publication by the virtue of paragraphs 12, 13 of Part 4 of the Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. However, the full summary of the need is included with the main body of your report today. The GTAA report has identified the need for 8 residential pitches in the county to provide accommodation for 3 families / extended households. The report did not identify a need for a permanent transit site in Denbighshire at the time, but recommends the management approach.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Councillor Young, you're breaking up. I wonder if you could switch your camera off.
I do apologise. I'll do that now, Chair. Okay. How much did you miss, Chair?
It was only the last couple of sentences.
Okay.
You need to start from the beginning again.
Okay. The report did not identify a need for a permanent transit site in Denbighshire at this time, but recommends a management approach to encampments. This is due to the combination of factors including low numbers of encampments, short-term nature of the encampments, and a lack of demand of such facilities from the travelling community. Good practice across the UK shows that a management approach can work well for travelling communities and for local residents. As well as the interviews with Gypsy and Traveller families, we also work closely with the organisation Travelling Ahead, who represent the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities. To finish, I hope that the Community Scrutiny Committee are able to endorse the conclusions of the Task and Finish group, who have committed a significant amount of time to this work, and be in a position to recommend to Cabinet that the work and the report should be approved for submission to the Welsh Government, which will enable us to meet our legal responsibilities. Jock and Fawr, thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. I don't know if Emlyn or Angela want to say a few words.
Diolch, Mr Cadeirydd, Emlyn's yma. No, I think both Councillor Mark Young and Councillor Barry Mellor have provided a really detailed introduction and assessment there and briefing. I'd like to just echo both their words really around how positive the experience was of working closely with the Task and Finish group and the board. So I'd like to thanks to all involved really. So, but happy. I don't think I need to add anything further. Diolch.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. So we can move on to the discussion. Just to remind members that we're here to endorse the conclusions of the Task and Finish group. We're not here to just discuss the whole issue. That's the purpose of the meeting. So just bear that in mind when you make your contribution. I'll try and stop you if you get too far away. Okay. Diolch yn fawr. First of all, then, Cynghorydd Mervyn Parry.
Thank you, Chair. I'll switch my camera off. Can we just confirm with the Gypsy Traveller or the transit site that that there wasn't a need for this, because the discussions they'd had with the gypsies, the travelling gypsies, said that they wouldn't use this site, and I think that's something that happens in other counties as well, and that we would just deal with them wherever they land at the time. That's my question. I'd like to thank the Task and Finish group for the work they've done also as well, because I was involved with the last time where they were trying to cite the permanent gypsy site, and this should make it a lot clearer, hopefully going into the next LDP, that we've all engaged in trying to show that there's a need for it. Selecting the site's a different question, but showing there's a need for it. So thank you very much.
Okay, so would someone like to take that?
Okay, I just come back before officers come in. So Councillor Parry, you're quite right. The feedback, the consultants, that other authorities have taken on this approach of managing these sites, these short-term sites, because the travelling community don't use them, and it would be strange to invest in a facility what's not used. And I noted on television this week there was a programme on where a site had been up and running for several years, never had any visitors to use it. So you wouldn't want to be doing that. I'm happy the management approach, although I do know there's more work to do on this. It's the way forward for the authority, and it works in other authorities. So Jock him out for the question. The question, just on the other bit, I think it's great.
Before you go on to that, can I just ask you to switch your camera off again? I think your internet
okay. All right.
Connected quite as well as other places.
Okay. All right. Did you miss any of my response to Councillor Parry? No. Okay. I just want to say it's great. I think that the Task and Finish group in their notes at the end from Councillor Barry-Miller said that they would like this sort of approach to carry on in the future. So I think that shows it's worked, and I think it makes sure members are involved and take up their responsibility along with officers. So thank you for the question, Councillor Parry.
Okay, thank you. We're going next to Councillor Peter Scott. Peter.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just thank Barry for the presentation, and I was very privileged to be on that Task and Finish group. I think it worked really well, and I'm quite happy with what went on. I just, and I perhaps should have spotted this before. I have one small question. It's on page 211, addressing the identified needs 7.5. Talks about households living in bricks and mortar, desire to meet their own need. Could you just explain what that might might mean? That's all, Chair, if possible. Thank you.
Can you just tell us exactly where it is on page?
It's on page 211. It's item under addressing identified need. It's 7.5. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks.
It just said addressing their own needs, and that the council should help to meet them. I just a small explanation about that point. And that's fine. Otherwise, thank you.
Okay. Thanks. I'll turn my camera off, Chair, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'll come back, and then I'm sure Emlyn or Angela come in. So I think that's if any families want to do this via the private site. I believe that's what it means, but I'll just double check with Angela and Emlyn, but I think that's what it means. But if they can confirm, that'd be great.
Yes, Emlyn here. Yes, that's my understanding, Mark. It's about whether individuals or families want to take it upon themselves to identify sites and locations to meet their own needs rather than the council intervening. Angela, anything to add to that at all, please?
Right, thank you very much, Emlyn. Yes, that's right. The households that were spoken to expressed a desire to meet their own needs rather than council provided sites. In fact, they expressed the opinion they didn't want to be housed on council sites. So I think the question then arises about how we seek to support them in enabling them to do that, and that is reflected in the GTAA.
Is that okay, Peter? You happy?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I did think that was my opinion anyway, but just for confirmation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the committee want to bring anything up before we move on to members who are not members of the committee? Councillor Swingler.
Thank you. I just want to ensure that the Gypsy Traveller Association have all engaged in this, and are they still engaged in this?
Okay, if I can just come back there, Chair, please. I'll turn my camera off again. So, yes, we've had a lots of meeting with Travelling Ahead, and only today they've done an email asking to meet me again in the future, and I'm happy to do that and happy to help in any way, because I think communicating with everyone involved is the way forward, Councillor Swingler. So, thanks for the question, and yes, they are, and we will continue.
Happy, Glenn?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Now, just before we go on to members who are not members of the committee, I just want to raise a point, because in the report that you presented, Mark and Barry, it said that the Task and Finish group had expressed a wish to continue to be involved during the next bit of the process, when finding a suitable location was the task. Can you just update us on that and how that'll work?
Yeah, I can come in, Chair. I think members of the Task and Finish group thought the extensive work that had been done over this last 12 months, that they had a decent insight now about the Egyptian travellers, and it would help for their input in moving forward. I think that's right. Am I, Mark?
Yeah, and obviously that's a separate piece of work, because this assessment needs to be agreed by Welsh Government first, and that piece of work would be separate, but I think it's good that this committee thinks it'll work, but obviously by the timings of this, that will be for the next council, I would guess. But I think this approach is a lesson learned, and it's good practice, and I would hope it carries on this way in the future. Jochen.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, what I'm thinking of really is, you know, the working group was set up as a result of a recommendation from the Community Scrutiny Committee. Do we need, in endorsing your report, does that mean we're endorsing that approach, that group of, or that representation continues to be involved? Just want to, I don't know if, Gary, please.
I think I understand exactly the point Councillor Mellor's making, and I think Councillor Younger has confirmed that the idea would be to have the same inclusive process with a similar involvement again, but they are separate processes. We need to have this assessment approved by Welsh Government. Once the assessment is approved by Welsh Government, who do have the power to modify it, it's, you know, they have the power to do that. Once that assessment has been approved, we then move into the second phase, which is identifying how those needs are met. And I would suggest, I don't want to preempt the outcome of any election, but it may not be that every single one of the members who's been on the Task and Finish group is here after May, be it through their own choice or otherwise. But that what certainly would need to happen, I'm guessing, would be that scrutiny would be involved in the process of identifying how those needs are met, and that a similar approach would be taken, but it would be for scrutiny to determine at the time exactly how they wanted to do that.
Okay, thanks for that. So we're noting their willingness, but not endorsing the fact that they will be involved.
It'd be a massive scrutiny, but it's probably a question to be decided when you're at the time.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so no more group members, so we're going to go to Cynghorydd Meirig Lloyd-Davies. Over to you, Meirig.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd, unwaith eto. Jyst eisiau dealltwriaeth gwell o enw Saesneg sydd gynnau. Ar tudalen 39, sef yn yr un Cymraeg 215, o dan atodiad A, defnyddio'n geiriad, felly. Ac yn yr ail dudalen, mae o'n sôn am wersyll preswyl, yn Saesneg, residential pitch. O dano fo, mae'n deud transit pitch, preswyl teithiol. Yn tudalen 37, yr un o dan 7, y casgliad ydy'r pennawd. Yn y paragraff 7.1, mae o'n sôn am pitches, sef y gwersyll, ond diolch yn dweud pa un. O'r ddau dwi newydd sôn wrthoch chi. Ac a ddiolch hefyd wrth reswm i Barry ac i'r grŵp tasg a gorffen ac i'r swyddogion am ei gwaith caled. Diolch yn fawr.
Okay, thank you. Anyone clear up that distinction between those?
I'll leave this one to officers if I may, Chair.
Shall we come back to that in a minute or two to give officers a chance to have a look at those particular points? Have you got the references there that you need to enable you to do that?
Can I make a suggestion, Chair?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just reading the references in the English version that Councillor Lloyd Davis has alluded to. It does refer to pitches. I think when you read the whole report, it's clear that those are residential pitches, because it then goes on to say that there's no need for transit sites. So I suppose it's just a drafting issue in the report as to whether there needs to be some just clarification in that paragraph. But I think in the overall context of the report, it's residential pitches.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Over to Christine Marson. Off you go, Christine.
Thank you, Chair. It was just on 2 points on clarity, and I appreciate Gary Williams has already sort of run through going forward the process that it would, scrutiny would be involved. Where does the local development plan, where does that sort of fit into the process? And my second point was travelling ahead, as obviously has been involved. I presume, is that a regional or is it a national sort of body that represents the Gypsies and Traveller community? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mark, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll just turn my camera off again if that's okay. So Travelling Ahead, I believe, is a national body, and they have a regional officer. That's my understanding, and they've been very helpful. And so that's that one. The LDP, obviously, it's ongoing work, but again, I think the task and finish group in the future could make recommendations to the SPG, as it were, in the future. But again, that's a separate process. But I would expect that piece of work could follow the same selection process involving members and officers in this format.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, contributions? Okay, so let's go on to the recommendations. The recommendations are on page 150 and quite lengthy, so bear with me. I was never very good at reading in school either, but here we go. That scrutiny endorses the conclusions of the task and finish group that A, work on a Gypsy and Traveller accommodation assessment has met the requirements of the work brief and stakeholder communications and engagement plan endorsed by scrutiny on 26th of July 2021. And B, the Welsh Government methodology has been applied appropriately to the analysis of need. And 3.2, that scrutiny confirms support for the approach adopted for the delivery of the Gypsy and Traveller accommodation in Denbighshire. Sorry, I'll do that again. That scrutiny confirms support for the approach adopted for the delivery of Denbighshire's Gypsy and Traveller accommodation assessment as being robust and in line with Welsh Government guidance. 3.3, that scrutiny confirms that it has read, understood and taken account of the well-being assessment, impact assessment, Appendix 3 as part of its consideration. And finally, 3.4, that scrutiny recommends to Cabinet that the draft Gypsy and Traveller accommodation assessment should be approved for submission to Welsh Government. So there are the recommendations, 4 recommendations. Would someone like to propose those?
I'll propose them, Chair.
I'll second, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Mervyn Parry to propose and Councillor Peter Scott to second. All those in favour, please. And anyone against? I can't see anyone, so shout out if you. Okay, Thank you. So that's carried. So that those recommendations are adopted. Can I say thank you very much for well, first of all, to the committee, because we've had about 55 minutes break between this item and the previous one. As you know, the reason for it was because we wanted to ensure that members who wanted to take part in this debate knew what time it started, and the other two were pretty weighty items as well, and so we weren't sure if it would really be far too long a session to have. So that's why we started at 1 o'clock. We're through now. It's not even 1:30, look. But it could have been about 3:30 had the previous items been a bit longer. So, but can I just say thank you very much anyway to everybody, to officers and to members and the lead member, Councillor Mark Young. And finally, I want to say thank you to Glenn Swingler, who is the Plaid Cymru, one of the Plaid Cymru members on the group, who is going to change, and we're going to welcome, just scanning my screen quickly. All right, yeah, see, second row, third one along. Gwyneth, new councillor for Llandrillo, and Gwyneth is going to replace Glenn. Glenn, thanks very much for your contribution. We've enjoyed being on the committee. We've not fallen out too often, and I'm sure you'll find plenty of other things in the council to do instead. But welcome, Gwyneth, and we look forward to having you on the committee next time.
Thanks very much.
Hello. Speaking.
Okay.
Mervyn, turn yourself off.
Sorry, I've lost it.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Gwyneth.
Yes, could I just, since this is the final meeting of this particular period up for the Gypsy and travelling sites, and it's been mentioned that this group has worked very well. It has worked very well, and I would like to congratulate the chairmanship. The chair is a very important role in all meetings, and we've had an excellent chair in Barry. And also we've had excellent support from officers. So diolch yn fawr iawn I bawb ohonoch chi.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Cheers, Barry. Much appreciated.
I'm sure that all members will agree with that, and thanks, Barry, and thanks, Mark, as well for your work as lead member. So that's it. We can go and enjoy the afternoon in other meetings that we've got to go to. Okay, so goodbye. See